Well, good Monday morning, everybody. It's been about a week or so since I talked to you last, and quite a bit has been going on here. Really didn't record anything uh, that was happening because I was kind of in a hurry to kind of get things finished. Okay, so several things. First of all, I had an excavator here all of last week, so Monday through Friday, and part of the weekend I was working with a little mini excavator, touching up parts of the driveway here. I recut in some drain, kind of crowned it a little bit better, so hopefully, the drainage is starting to work itself out. Rebecca and I put in the large picture window in the house, which means that I now have windows available for cabin 2. So that was quite the event. It was about a 75 by 56 inch picture window, so it was pretty heavy. We were just kind of worried about it was just going to fall outside the house, and you know that would have been a costly mistake. But everything went just fine. It looks fantastic. We're super happy with the way it turned out, and it was just another one of those projects where something was sitting around where it's like, come on, we need to get this done. So we managed to get that done without any issues, and it looks great on top of that. So Rebecca had spent some time, both other sets of windows that I put in for cabin 1 and cabin 3. Those Rebecca spent some time priming and staining those frames and everything. So 95% of that is done now. So that works well. That's up the hill and done. Super happy about that. Next, I also fired up the sawmill the other day and started cutting battens. You may be able to see behind me here. Rebecca actually started to stain some of them, and I started to put some of them up here on cabin 1. So let's kind of hustle down here and just take a kind of a quick look. I don't know if you can see these here. So there's a little bit of a difference in color. That's not the stain itself. That just these battens had sat out in the sun for a little bit, so they're a little faded. So Rebecca says she's gonna come back through and kind of touch these up a little bit, but it looks fantastic. I can't say enough good things about how this is gonna look here. So that being said, I have spent some time here. Let me get out of the sun here. I have spent some time over, last couple days. If I wasn't on the excavator, it was kind of like piecemealing tools back down to the cabins, because I need a chop saw, then I'd need my nail gun, and then a pair of pliers, and then this and that, and it was just one thing after another, and so it's taken a minute to get back into the groove of things. But let me show you here. This is cabin 2 behind me here. But one of the things I did with the excavator, the primary thing I did was remove stumps. So behind cabin 1, 2, and 3 here, this used to be all full of stumps and everything. They're no longer here. So I had to do this so that I can get the ditch, the trenching machine. I want to get the water and the sewer lines put in. So I had too many stumps back there to easily do that. So in connection with those stumps that were behind all the cabins, if you recall, let me get in here. I had some larger stumps that were out here in front of cabin 1. Those are all gone. I also had a pretty large stump down here. This is where my burn pile and everything was here behind me. That stump is now gone. All of the stumps that were out here in the middle of the property here, those are all gone. There's only a few that are kind of left back up in there. They were really too close to the driveway. I didn't want to pull them up to lose some of the integrity of the driveway itself. So I'm gonna just take my chainsaw and just kind of cut those down flush with the ground, because I did, and they are fairly large. They were 15, 20-inch round stumps, and it did take a pretty good size hole in order to get those other stumps out that I got at other parts of the property here where the cabins are going to be. So I left them there. Like I said, the integrity of the driveway was more important than getting those stumps out. So I'm just gonna chop those down. Oh, what else has been going on? It was a busy week. Week for sure, and I was super happy with the progress. So how we're looking for today and this week, what I want to do, I've got about Rebecca has about 40 of the battens that are already stained, so I'm going to work on cabin 1, getting those battens up and some of the exterior trim, work on getting those up until I run out of battens. I did end up cutting about 100 or so of them, so she's got some more staining she's got to get done, and then we can get more of those up. So first part is to get these battens up. Second, I want to start looking into stairs. I need to start working on the stairs, pouring some concrete for the landing, making the stairs, and then working on the railing system that's going to be on cabin 1. So hopefully that will take me into the weekend. This weekend I would like to rent the trenching machine and start cutting in some trenches for water line, sewer for 1, 2, and 3. Then I need to run electrical to cabins 4 and 5. That really needs to go in first because that's the deepest trench I have to dig. Everything else is going to kind of lay on top of that, about 15 inches or so, where those power lines are down about 3 feet or so, about 36 inches. So got to get that done first, then I can put everything on top of that. So it's going to be a fun-filled week, I can tell you that right now. So we're super excited. Finally get some, getting into this cabin build. Let's get to it. All right, guys, this went on really well. I really like the way this looks. You may have seen me kind of swinging my hat up here in this area. It's a bit of a hornet's nest that decided to take refuge inside my soffit up there, but we closed that off, but there's still some that are kind of knocking on the door trying to get in, so we take care of that as we need to. So this all, like I said, this all came out great. I really like the way this looks. I am of the board and batten mentality that I use one nail in the middle of the batten, and ideally this nail goes between this board and this board into the nailer so that these boards can still expand and contract a little bit. Generally, the purpose of this batten here is to seal that seam up, and I think I accomplish all of that using those single nails there. So even this, just to show a little bit of a detail here, this corner came out fantastic. See, I had to kind of run up a little bit right here to kind of finish that off a little bit, but all came out great. Looks fantastic, super happy with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on now back to, the sun is brutal. Gonna start moving on to this backside here. Gonna be a little more challenging, just in the sense that I gotta get a bigger ladder. I've got to cut some angles out because of the pitch of the roof and stuff like that. So each one of the battens at the top will have, man, it's been so long since I've worked on cabin one. It's what, 22 and a half degrees, something like that. We'll figure it out before I start getting too crazy with it. So let's get to it. Well, guys, since I only have kind of the shorter ladder that's down here, instead of dragging the other one down, we're actually still using two of the larger ladders, finishing up some paint on the picture window that we have up there. So since I just have the small ladder down here, I'm just gonna move to the front here and kind of get all of this stuff up here in the loft area done. Let's get to it. Okay, so since I'm gonna have like a trim piece that's up there against the soffit and everything, I just wanted to eyeball and make sure I was right. So this angle here of that pitch, it's a 12/4 pitch, so it's 18.4 degrees, so about 18 and a half. So that angle looks good on both sides. So let me get the trim up there, and then we'll work on the battens. All right, gang, coming down to the end of the day here. Just wanted to summarize here where I'm leaving it for today. So this side of the cabin one is completely done with the battens, even up under the eave here on this side. I managed to get the front here up in the loft area done as well. And then what I had left was just a few back here for this side here. So I stopped right in that area. So it looks like I need about 40 more. I put the order in with Rebecca. Need about 40 more to finish this side here and the back side of the cabin. So once I finished putting those up, which wasn't really too difficult, I started to get an idea of what's going to happen here with my staircase here coming into cabin one. So I know I'm going to have a concrete pad down here on the bottom. It's going to be about a 3-foot square. So it's going to have it's a decent sized landing for the staircase itself. And I may add on to that. That's really kind of to be determined, but I need to get an idea of what I need to figure out the rise and the run here to figure out my stairs and how many treads I'm going to have and stuff like that. So I kind of flattened eyeball level a little hole there. So I'm going to actually make a form for the concrete. So that'll actually be the base because I need that measurement to get the rise of it. Yeah, so I got some math to do. I got to figure that out. So we'll have a 36-inch wide staircase here on cabins 1 and 3, and it'll be a little wider on cabin 2, the style on cabin 2, because really just because of where those posts are right there on cabin 2. I'm going to use those as my railing posts. So here I've got to put posts in, and then the guardrail there along the front here. So got some stuff to figure out as usual here when it comes to kind of getting all this stuff done. So we're going to put our best foot forward and see what we can come up with. So I know Rebecca is up there right now staining, so I'm going to have some of that to do tomorrow, put some more battens on tomorrow. Depends on how many she gets done, and then we'll move back into staircase prep. So we'll see you then. Well, good morning, everybody. We're back at it down here by cabin 1. Kind of as usual, got quite a bit going on, and it's actually Wednesday now. So yesterday I spent quite a bit of time putting a plan together for the stairs, kind of the layout, going through code, figuring out, things I have to do and stuff like that. So, I want to work with the code as much as I can and make the job for the inspector that much easy. So yesterday afternoon, I took a run down to get supplies. So you see on the deck behind me here, I've got my 2x12s I need for stringers. I also, along the front there on the porch there, I've got to extend that rim joist down a bit. So I've got a 2x10, I'm going to use that, and I have 4x4s up at the house there that we're going to use for support and blocking. Behind those, that little extension, and that's really just because the plans I have, the stair calculator that I use to come up with the plan for these stairs, there's only 3 treads, okay, and the last step is going to be onto the deck itself. So the stringers actually hang about 8.5 inches below the top of the deck. This will all make sense once I get, the stringers up and start showing you what the layout's going to be and stuff like that. So it'll all make sense. And also down here on the bottom, got my glorious bags of concrete. So one of the things that I looked at as far as code-wise yesterday, I've got to have 36 inches in front of the riser on the bottom step. Okay, so I was just going to have a 36-inch square, 3-foot square, and that was with the stringers resting on it. That's I can't do that. I need to add, actually, what I'm going to have, I think, is about a 50 by 50 inch concrete landing, and that will leave me plenty of room. The 3 feet I need in front, as well as leaving space for the stringers to rest on the concrete. I have pressure treated lumber that I'm using for my stringers, so I'm not really worried about that setting directly on the concrete. I'll probably put some sort of zip tape or something underneath the stringers just to kind of help stop that water absorption. That'll be kind of a game time decision, but I'm not really worried about that pressure treated lumber. The only thing that's unusual I'm going to try out, and I don't know if it'll come out on this video here. I needed some rebar for the pad, obviously. So I'm going to give these the pink guys a try here. This is a fiberglass reinforced. Now, I can't bend these or anything, but I can string them together. They are quite a bit lighter and actually much cleaner. When I grabbed them in the store, I actually grabbed number 4 regular like steel rebar, and I grabbed it and immediately looked at my hand. It was just covered with rust and disgusting, and I didn't have my gloves with me, and I was like, this is just irritating to me. So in the bin right next to it, there were these pinkies. They were only $1 more, and I said, well, we'll give them a try. The slab itself, I'm going with 2x6. I'm going to have a rock base to it and things, so that's one of the things I may have to work on a little bit today. I've got to go pick up some gravel, and just so I can have a decent base for my landing that's going to be here. So anything to improve, just putting this down on the dirt. So got quite a bit going on, got some supplies. We're going to make some sawdust today, cutting these stringers out. My intention is to cut the first one and then kind of get the area where the landing has got to be, because I don't want a lot of concrete up underneath the stairs. It's really just wasted material. So if I can get it out as far as the back of the stringer, that would be best case scenario. And then again, that would leave me plenty of room out front, code-wise, as far as my landing goes. So that's the update. Let's get into it. All right, guys, got things kind of set up here, a little workstation, cutting station over here, and then pretty easy access to what I'll be working on here initially. So first thing, I got to cut down my 2x10 to the proper width, and then I'll center it, and then I'll work on blocking and things like that are actually going to attach it to the bottom of this rim joist here. Again, to extend that down, because my stringer is probably going to end up somewhere in this location here. Again, it's 8.5 inches from the top of the rim joist here down to the top of that first step. All right, and my steps are going to be 47 inches. My stringers are going to be 47 inches across. I'm going to have 4 stringers through this staircase here. It's only, like, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but there's only going to be 3 treads, and then the deck will be the last step up onto the deck. So yeah, 47 inches across. It'll give me ample room. It was all really kind of based upon the door width. Code requirements got to be a minimum of 36, but because of where my posts are going to go, the width of the door, things like that, just the way the math kind of worked out, it's going to end up being 47 inches across. The stairway itself will be slightly smaller simply because of the 4-inch posts on each side will take up some of that space. So I'll still, between the width of the posts is going to be 36 inches. So it's just kind of how that math worked out. So let's get this extension cut, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so this front board here, this is the extension. I'm not going to actually utilize all of this. This will attach here, and then wherever the stringer comes down to the bottom of the stringer, I'm going to cut this off just so there's not an excessive amount hanging down here, but we'll see how that goes. So I'll find the center of this board. I've got the center of the doorway here, so we'll center this up, or at least we'll just find the marking for it for center, and then we'll work on getting some blocking in behind it here. So just the way this lays out, the width, I just marked the width of it here of 47 based on the center line. So I can see these 3 nails here, and I got some on both sides. So I've already got blocking up underneath the far end of each one. That should work in my favor. So we're going to get some 4x4s up on the inside of this. That'll give me a good spot to, I've got some structural screws to put in there, as well as I've got a whole ton of like 6-inch, half-inch galvanized bolts. I'll probably put in there as well. So if I get the length between this 2x6 and this 2x10, that'll be the length of those 4x4 posts that are going to go up underneath there in the back. So let's get that going here. So as I'm up here, it's kind of eyeballing things and everything like that. I'm looking here, I'm thinking further down the line when I get my railing system in here. If I was going to put this post in directly against the back of this rim joist right here, my railing wouldn't be straight. So I'm actually going to have to notch this post 1.5 inches to bring it out over the rim joist, which is underneath the decking. And that will line that up with the corner post on each side, because those corner posts are sat right on the edge, the outside edge of the rim. So I'm going to have to notch this 1.5 inches, sink that down below the deck, and then secure it in that fashion. Just one of those things that, you know, further down the line, looking at things, that's why I kind of take my time and kind of eyeball all this stuff, because that surely would have thrown things off, and that would have been aggravating for sure. All right, guys, get you back down here a little closer to kind of what's going on here. So I have my 47-inch area here marked out on the rim joist itself. I broke that up into thirds, so now I know where I need to put my blocking underneath on the back side. I can just eyeball this. It's not a perfect alignment here, but as long as I get this in about, you know, the third of the way through on each side, that'll be plenty to get the rim joist extension up and fixed, and I can kind of build from there. Hold this in. I've got these structural, these are GRK, they're 5 1/8. So we'll put in a couple here through the joist. That'll hold that just fine. I also have to get up underneath there and put some blocking next to this 4x4 and connect it to the next joist that's underneath. I'll get under there and show you that at some point in the future here. Okay, this extension in here is in just fine. It's really pretty sturdy. We're still gonna secure that up. Like I said, I gotta put blocking up underneath between the joists. That'll help that surely with a little bit more movement. And then as well, my posts are gonna come in from the top and secure down the length of it as well to add more stability. Well, I just put the blocking down here underneath cabin 1. Let's get you under here to show how this looks now. So those are the 4x4s that I initially put in. That was the first piece. Then the rim joist extension. And then here's some 2x10 blocking. 2 sets on each side. I got screws here holding it in. And it is, I mean, it is solid right now. And just to think that I'm going to have my posts coming down, bolted into this as well, along with these, this blocking here. This is really going to be solid. That's really what I'm looking for. I don't need any movement out of my posts and things like that. So, so far so good. All right, guys, time to start laying out where the stringers are actually going to be located along this extension right here. So my plans, my stair calculator tells me that I should be 8.5 inches from the finished floor height down to the top of the stringer is 8.5 inches. Okay, so I know my treads and the finished floor height here is 1 inch thick. These are actually pine boards that are up here, but these are 1 inch thick. So just to make it easier for measuring and accuracy and things like that, I'm just going to subtract 1 inch and measure from the bottom or the top of the joist here, the rim joist, and then come down 7.5 inches from that. So I'll take my level now, I will strike a line across the top of that level, and that's where each of my tops of my stringers will actually start. So looking at the hole that I dug here the other day, it actually might turn out fairly well as far as location goes. Now I know I'm going to have to remove some more dirt and stuff like that, but it's a good start. So 7.5 inches from the top of the rim joist, that would be 8.5 inches to the top of the finished floor. So that's my mark right there. Now wherever my stringer, however, when I cut it, as it connects to the extension here, anything beyond the bottom of that stringer, I'm going to remove. All right, gang, we're starting to get into really the fun part of this whole operation here with the stairs, and that's kind of laying out the stringers here. So I have my initial lines put on here. This is the rig I use here with my framing square. My run is 11 inches here, and then my rise is 7.5 inches. So I use this straight edge here along the board to create my rise and my run of my stairs. I've got, according to my plans, I've got 3 treads. So that's what I've marked out here on the board. I've slid it up the board here a little bit because I want to avoid this knot here. So I'm going to be able to cut that out. That is a little bit of waste, but I have plenty of space down here for another stringer. I've got 2 of these boards on hand, so getting these stringers out of these boards, I can really pick the best portions of the board to use as my stringers. So I've got those laid out now. Let me finish laying out the rest of the stringer, how it's supposed to be cut, and then we'll get to cutting. Okay, guys, I just made my final marks on here. So this is the portion of the stringer here that's going to be resting on the ground. Okay, this is actually the point where the concrete is actually going to start, maybe 1 inch or 2 on the inside of this. So this will be on the ground, my first step here, second step here, third here, and then this portion here attaches to the rim board extension that we created this morning. So just looking at the order of operations here, I think I'll cut this last just because I want to be able to utilize the horses here to hold this board up. So yeah, Okay, let's make some cuts. Again, I'm going to be using my circular saw, so I'm not going to be cutting. I'm just cutting the lines here at the top. I'll use my jigsaw to finish those corners off. Well, there you have it, guys. The first stringer. So this will be my pattern. I'll use this to create the others. But we're going to use this now initially to locate the start of the concrete pad there. That's going to be the landing. So let's do it. All right, guys, just took my initial look here with my stringer, and a few really great things happened. So at my line, you see I marked 2 lines here. My first one that I made when I was recording with you guys was 6.5. It's supposed to be 7.5 because with this, it's going to be an 8.5 step there. So again, I'm going to have 4 stringers. So I'll line this up here on my mark at 7.5 inches from the 8.5 inches from the top of the finished floor level here down to this first tread. So I immediately noticed a few things. First of all, at this location, I've only got about a 1/2 inch of space down here underneath this extension, so I'm not going to be cutting this at all. That is perfectly okay for me. Second of all, down here where I started the cut for my trench, where the concrete slab is going to be, this is the first, this angle right here, hopefully you can see my finger wiggling there in the camera, but this angle right there, that's actually the first part, because this whole bottom piece is going to be resting on the concrete. Plus I'm going to have a notch up front here with a 2x4. We'll show that at a later time, but so basically what this is saying, and this is a good 2 to 3 inches behind that portion that starts touching the concrete, that is absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to continue this line across. I've got to clear it out a little bit because I need to get my frame, my form in there. But this is a great starting point here. So, and I need 36 inches in front of this part here for the landing. So we're going to have to extend this out a little bit further, but all in all, really a great initial attempt at this. This is really going well. So I like the way things look, and yeah, let's keep moving forward. All right, gang, what you're seeing there inside of my landing there, that's the form I'm going to use. That's a 50 by 50 form. That's going to be concrete here. So I just threw it in here just to kind of give me an idea of its, you know, where I got to clean out more material and whatnot. So the important part of this is that this form, when I take a measurement from the landing at the top of on the deck there, I got to make sure that the top of this form is 30 inches from the top of the deck, and that would mean my stringers that I create, that's what dimension I use when I initially took the measurement. So as long as I've got that 30 inches from the top of this form, which obviously will be the top of the concrete, to the top of the deck, the finished floor up there, everything should work out just fine. So I don't know if you can tell on the video here, but it is not sitting square inside the hole itself. It's sloped here to the left as we're looking at it. So I need to take some material out from this side here. And then really not too, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't really need the bottom to be nice and flat and flush and everything, or level, I should say, because I'm going to have a layer of gravel in the bottom, and that's what I'm going to utilize to kind of square this up, level it, and make it square to cabin 1 itself. So I really just need to get down enough. I probably want to get 2 or 3 inches of gravel underneath the pad, maybe 4 or so, but I'm just going to pull some material out. I'll take a hasty measurement here in this corner here just to see where I'm at as far as the distance right now, and then that'll kind of give me an idea about how much more material you can see below the 2x6 there that I've got to remove to get that 4, 5, 6 inches of gravel that I want there in the bottom. So well, this is just one of those stories about living in a small town here. So I ran to town, grabbed some gravel, and the one guy who is trained on using the skid steer was off this afternoon, so they wouldn't let me run the skid steer. So it is what it is. I got to go back tomorrow, pick up the gravel. So I'm going to clean up down here around cabin 1, just put away all my tools and everything like that. I've got to do some caulk. I got to put some caulk around the picture window that we have in the house now. So that's kind of a little project I've been waiting for a few minutes, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So I'm going to clean up here, and then we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. We'll see you then.